Mexico is a country that is potentially one of our greatest allies, but potentially one of our biggest enemies at the same time. When we talk about threats around the world, the United States, we look at countries like North Korea, China, Russia, Iran. None of these countries are really conventional threats to the United States. Yes, there are some things to be concerned about, like Iran could potentially close the Straits of Hormuz. China could invade Taiwan, and we would be missing high end chips in our supply chain. Russia, yes, it has the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, but Mexico is really more of a threat to the average American than any of these countries. Their drug cartels, which are very much in bed with their government, are paramilitary organizations that partially operate within the United States. They are complicit in the massive amounts of illegal immigration into our country. Some of these people were terrorists. A lot of these people were criminals. In fact, crossing the border illegally is a crime. When I say criminals, I'm talking about gang members, people that were murderers, rapists, etc. Mexico is also a potential major ally of the United States. It is obviously major trading partner. It's our biggest trading partner of any single country in the world, and it is a country that a lot of manufacturing is relocating right now. A lot of manufacturing is moving out of China and is moving out of like a lot of European countries. They're relocating in Mexico because it's right next to the biggest consumer market in the world, and Mexican labor is pretty cheap. So potentially they could be a great ally, but it's also a very corrupt country. And we need to remember that. Recently, a few days ago, there was a reporter that was doing his reporting. He reported on a car crash. I think this was near Veracruz. And he was arrested on terrorism charges because the daughter that was involved in the car crash, she was the daughter of a political elitist in Mexico. Mexico, as a culture, they have more personal loyalties. You have like an elite class that are very much hived off from the rest of the population in Mexico. And because you have these very more personal loyalties, you get these separatist regions. There's a separatist region by Guatemala. Like I said, you have the cartels in the north of Mexico. You have the political elite in Mexico, which act with some degree of impunity. Obviously, they did in this case by arresting a journalist for terrorism because he reported an unfavorable article about a politically connected individual. So this is the kind of thing that has to be understood. I think the Trump administration understands this. I think really our political elite here in the United States understands Mexico. But with all this talk about giving all this aid to Israel, all this talk about NATO, all this talk about being allies with Japan, which is fine in the case of Japan because they're a major trading partner of the United States. We really need troops on the southern border, not just because of immigration, but because of the cartel members, because Mexico is, when it comes to the average Joe, the average person here in the United States, Mexico is actually more of a threat in terms of foreign threats than any of these other countries are. So I just want to highlight that. I'll put a link in the description below of the article of the arrested journalist. So this is just a reminder to everybody about what's going around, and what the United States, I think, should be more focused on geopolitically.